The storm came without warning that night. Lightning cut across the sky like angry white snakes. Rain fell so hard, it sounded like drums beating on every roof in the city. Half of Bizen lost power. Streets turned into small rivers. Most people stayed inside their homes, waiting for the storm to pass. Kang Do-yoon was not most people. He owned a small repair shop in the industrial part of the city. The shop was old and cramped, filled with broken machines and spare parts. He fixed things that other people threw away. Terraforming units from the early days of space travel. Atmospheric recyclers the colonies no longer wanted. Old technology that still had life in it, if someone was willing to look hard enough. Do-hyun was 42 years old. His hands were rough from years of work. There was always grease under his fingernails, no matter how much he washed them. His wife had died 4 years ago from a sickness that came fast and left faster. Now he lived alone with his daughter in the small apartment above the shop. He was locking the front door when he heard the sound. It was quiet at first, almost lost in the noise of the storm. But Do-hyun had good ears. He stopped moving and listened. There it was again. A whimper. Small and weak. Like a hurt animal. He followed the sound to the back of his shop. Behind the large trash container, pressed against the wet brick wall, he found her. At first, he thought she was a human child. A girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old. She was curled into a tight ball, arms wrapped around her knees. Her clothes were torn and soaked with rain and something darker. Blood. A lot of blood. Then lightning flashed and Do-hyun saw what she really was. 2 triangular ears pressed flat against silver white hair. A long tail wrapped around her thin body. When she looked up at him, her eyes were large and golden, with pupils like a cat. A Philesian. Do-hyun knew about Philesians. Everyone on Earth did. They had made contact with humans 30 years ago. They came from a planet called Veltari Prime, 17 light years away. They looked like a mix of human and cat. Beautiful and strange. They rarely came to Earth, and when they did, they kept to themselves. They thought humans were primitive, dangerous, not worth their time. So what was a Philesian child doing bleeding in a back alley in Bizen? The girl made a sound. Half cry, half moan. Her golden eyes were unfocused. She was going into shock. Do-hyun's first thought was to call for help. The police. A hospital. Someone who knew how to handle aliens. But then he looked at her wounds more closely. Deep cuts across her arms and back. Burns on her legs that looked like they came from plasma weapons. Military weapons. Someone had tried very hard to kill this child. And if he called the authorities, whoever did this might find her again. Appa? Do-hyun turned. His daughter Yuna stood in the doorway that connected the shop to their apartment stairs. She was 9 years old, with her mother's kind eyes and her father's stubborn chin. She was holding her school bag, even though it was almost midnight. She must have heard him moving around. "What is that?" she asked, looking at the shape behind the trash container. "Get the first aid kit," Do-hyun said. His voice was calm, but his heart was beating fast. "The big one. And bring towels. Clean ones." Yuna did not ask questions. She was a good girl. Smart and brave. She disappeared back up the stairs. Do-hyun knelt beside the Philesian child. Up close, he could see how young she was. How small. She weighed almost nothing when he lifted her. Her silver hair was matted with blood and dirt. Her skin was cold. "I am going to help you," he said softly. He did not know if she could understand Korean. He did not know if she could hear him at all. But he said it anyway. "You are safe now." He carried her up the stairs to the apartment. It was a small place. 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, a bathroom with a shower that sometimes worked. Not much, but it was home. Yuna had spread towels on the kitchen table. The first aid kit was open beside them. She watched with wide eyes as Do-hyun laid the alien girl down. Is she going to die? Yuna whispered. Not if I can help it. Do-hyun did not know anything about Philesian biology. He did not know if human medicine would help or hurt. He only knew the basics of first aid, what every mechanic learned in case of accidents. But he had no choice. He could not take her to a hospital. He could not call anyone. He had to try. He worked through the night, cleaning wounds, stitching cuts, bandaging burns. The Philesian girl drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes she cried out in a language he did not understand. Sometimes she was completely still, and Do-hyun had to check that she was still breathing. By morning, the storm had passed. The girl was alive. She slept for 3 days. Do-hyun took turns with Yuna watching over her. He went to work in the shop during the day, checking on her every hour. At night, he slept in a chair beside her bed. Yuna gave up her room without being asked. She slept on the couch and did not complain. On the 4th day, the girl opened her eyes. She looked around the room with fear. Her ears were flat. Her tail was puffed up. She tried to move, then cried out in pain. Easy, Do-hyun said. He held up his hands to show he meant no harm. You are hurt. Do not move too much. The girl stared at him. Her golden eyes were sharp now, filled with intelligence and suspicion. She said something in a language that sounded like singing. I do not understand, Do-hyun said. He spoke slowly, clearly. Do you speak Common? Common was the trade language that humans and aliens used to talk to each other. Most spacers knew it. Do-hyun had learned a little from his work with old colonial equipment. The girl was quiet for a long moment. Then, in a voice like broken glass, she said, Where am I? Bison, Earth, my home? Do-hyun pointed to himself. My name is Kang Do-hyun. This is my daughter, Yuna. Yuna waved from the doorway. She was holding a cup of water. The Philesian girl looked at them both. Her fear did not go away, but something else appeared in her eyes. Confusion, maybe. Like she did not understand why they were being kind. What is your name? Do-hyun asked. The girl was silent for so long that he thought she would not answer. Then, in a whisper, Nari. Nari. Do-hyun nodded. That is a pretty name. Are you hungry, Nari? She did not answer. Instead, she asked a question of her own. Her voice was small and afraid, and it broke Do-hyun's heart to hear it. Will you send me back? Do-hyun thought about the plasma burns, the deep cuts, the way she had been left to die in the rain. Someone had hurt this child badly. Someone powerful. Someone with weapons that could kill. He thought about the smart thing to do, the safe thing. He should contact the authorities. Report what he had found. Let someone else handle it. Instead, he said, No, you can stay. Nari stared at him. Her golden eyes filled with tears. She did not cry, but it was close. Why? She asked. You do not know me. I know you are hurt, Do-hyun said simply. I know you are scared. That is enough. 17 light years away, aboard a ship called the Moonless Dawn, a woman watched this moment on a screen. She was tall and beautiful and terrible. Her fur was the color of midnight. Her eyes were gold, just like Nari's. She wore robes of silver and black, and on her head sat a crown of living crystal. Her name was Seowa. She was the High Matriarch of the Philesian Concordat. She ruled 17 star systems. She commanded 100 warships. And she had just watched a poor human mechanic promise to protect her daughter. Maintain observation, she commanded. Her voice was cold, but her claws dug into her throne. I want to see everything. The first week was very hard. Nari could not eat human food. Do-hyun learned this the hard way when she vomited rice all over the kitchen floor. Her body rejected bread, noodles, vegetables, and anything cooked. She grew weaker every day, and Do-hyun did not know what to do. On the fifth night, he stayed up until 3 in the morning searching on his old tablet. He read everything he could find about Philesians. Most of it was useless. Tourist information, political news, warnings about their territorial nature. But finally, deep in a trade database, he found what he needed. Philesians were obligate carnivores. They could only eat raw meat and fish. Their bodies needed specific proteins that human food did not have. The next morning, Do-hyun went to the fish market before sunrise. He spent money he did not have on fresh mackerel and tuna. When he brought it home, Nari looked at the raw fish with wide eyes. She ate it so fast he was afraid she would choke. "Slow down," he said gently. "There is more. I promise." After that, feeding Nari became Do-hyun's biggest problem. Fresh fish was expensive. His repair shop barely made enough money to feed 2 people. Now he had 3 mouths, and one of them needed food that cost 5 times more than rice. He started working longer hours. He took jobs he normally would have refused. Dangerous work. Difficult work. He came home exhausted every night, his hands cut and burned from handling broken machines. But there was always fish on the table for Nari. Yuna noticed. She was only 9, but she was not stupid. "Appa," she said one night, "you did not eat dinner again." Do-hyun smiled and ruffled her hair. "I ate at the shop. I was not hungry." It was a lie. He had given his portion to Nari because there was not enough for everyone. But Yuna did not need to know that. Nari was healing slowly. Her wounds closed. Her burns faded to pink scars. She was still thin and weak, but she no longer looked like she was dying. She followed Yuna around the apartment like a shadow, watching everything with her big golden eyes. Yuna took this as a challenge. "If you are going to live with us," she announced one morning, "you need to learn Korean. Nobody speaks common here except weird spacers and my dad." She sat Nari down at the kitchen table with picture books and began to teach. She pointed at things and said their names: dog, cat, fish, house, sky, sun, moon. Nari learned fast. Faster than any human child could have learned. Within 2 weeks, she could speak simple sentences. Within a month, she could hold a conversation. Her accent was strange, like she was singing the words instead of speaking them, but she was understood. She still flinched at loud noises. She still woke up screaming from nightmares. On those nights, Yuna would crawl into bed beside her and hold her hand until she stopped shaking. "It is okay," Yuna would whisper. "You are safe. The bad people cannot find you here." Nari never talked about the bad people. She never explained what had happened to her. But sometimes, when she thought no one was watching, she would touch her scars and her eyes would go far away. Do-hyun did not push her. He understood that some wounds took longer to heal than others. One afternoon, Nari followed him down to the shop. She had never gone there before. She stood in the doorway, looking at the piles of broken machines and scattered tools with curiosity. "What is this place?" she asked. "My shop. I fix things here." Nari stepped inside carefully. Her nose wrinkled at the smell of oil and metal. She picked up a small device from a shelf, turning it over in her hands. "This is old," she said. "Very old. It is an atmospheric regulator from a colony ship. About 60 years old. The people who owned it wanted to throw it away, but I think I can make it work again." Nari put the device down and looked at him. "Why? Why what? Why fix broken things? Why not just get new ones?" Do-hyun thought about the question. He picked up a wrench and began working on a machine while he answered. Because throwing something away just because it is broken, that is wasteful. Most things can be fixed. They just need someone who cares enough to try. Even if it is hard? Especially if it is hard. He smiled at her. The best things are never easy. Nari was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, in a small voice, "Can people be fixed too?" Do-hyun stopped working. He looked at this strange, broken child who had fallen into his life like a meteor. She was so young. She had seen so much pain. And she was asking him if she could be healed. "Yes," he said firmly. "People can be fixed too. It takes time. It takes care. But yes." Nari's ears perked up slightly. It was the first time he had seen them do that. It made her look less scared, more hopeful. "Can I stay here?" she asked. "In the shop? With you?" "Of course." From that day on, Nari never left his side when he worked. She watched him take apart machines and put them back together. She asked questions about every tool, every part, every technique. She learned the names of things in Korean and in Common and sometimes in Philesian, teaching Do-hyun words from her own language in return. She started handing him tools before he asked for them. She had good instincts. She understood how machines worked, even if she had never seen them before. Do-hyun suspected that Philesian education was far ahead of human schooling. Sometimes, when they worked together in comfortable silence, Do-hyun forgot that she was an alien. She was just Nari, his second daughter, the kid who liked to sort screws by size and got grease on her silver hair and smiled when she figured out how something worked. Aboard the moonless dawn, High Matriarch Selwa watched her daughter smile. It was a small smile, quick and shy, but it was real. Nari was smiling at something the human male had said. A joke, maybe, or praise for her work. It did not matter. What mattered was that Selwa had not seen her daughter smile in over a year. Before the assassination attempt, Nari had been a bright child, curious and playful and full of joy. But the attack had changed her. She had become quiet, withdrawn. She flinched at shadows and trusted no one. The palace doctors said she needed time. The palace teachers said she needed routine. But nothing helped. Now, in a dirty repair shop on a primitive planet, Nari was smiling again. Siowa's advisors did not understand. They wanted to extract Nari immediately. Every day she spent with humans was a risk, they said. A contamination of royal bloodlines and proper education. The human treats her like his own child, one advisor complained. He is teaching her to fix machines. Machines. She's heir to 17 systems, and he has her sorting screws like a common worker. He is also teaching her to be happy, Silwo replied coldly. Something we failed to do. The advisor fell silent. Siowa continued watching. She saw Do-hyun give Nari his portion of fish when he thought no one was looking. She saw him work until midnight, every night, to pay for food and medicine. She saw him fall asleep at his workbench, exhausted, so that his daughters could have real beds. She saw the human girl, Yuna, hold Nari during nightmares. She saw her defend Nari against children who called her names. She saw her share her toys, her books, her room, without asking for anything in return. Our psychological profiles say humans are selfish, Siowa murmured to herself. They say humans only care about their own blood, their own tribe. On the screen, Do-hyun was showing Nari how to use a socket wrench. His large, rough hands were gentle as they guided her smaller ones. Perhaps, Siowa said, our profiles are wrong. She did not order extraction. Not yet. She needed to know more. She needed to understand why this human was different, or if he was different at all. The observation drones continued their work. recording everything, every meal, every lesson, every kindness. And slowly, without knowing it, Kang Do-in was changing the fate of two civilizations. 6 months passed like water through fingers. Spring came to Bizen. The cherry trees bloomed pink and white along the harbor. The air grew warm and smelled like salt and flowers. Life in the small apartment above the repair shop settled into a routine. Do-hyun woke at 5 every morning. He made breakfast before the girls woke up. Fish for Nari, rice and eggs for Yuna, black coffee for himself. Then he went down to the shop and worked until noon. In the afternoon, he helped Yuna with her homework and taught Nari about machines. In the evening, they ate dinner together at the small folding table between engine blocks and spare parts. It was not a rich life. It was not an easy life. But it was a good life. Nari grew 3 centimeters. Her silver hair reached past her shoulders now. Yuna insisted on braiding it every morning, weaving in small ribbons she bought with her allowance money. Nari pretended to be annoyed, but she never asked her to stop. Her Korean became perfect. Better than perfect. She spoke with no accent now, and she had started reading Yuna's school books for fun. She was hungry for knowledge in a way that surprised Do-in. She wanted to know everything about everything. Her nightmares came less often. Once a week instead of every night. Then once a month. She still flinched sometimes when she heard loud noises, but she no longer ran to hide. She was healing. Slowly but truly. One evening, Yuna asked Nari about her home. They were sitting on the roof of the apartment building, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and purple. Do-hyun was down in the shop, finishing a late job. The girls often came up here when the weather was nice. What is it like? Yuna asked. Your planet? Nari was quiet for a moment. She rarely talked about Valkyrie Prime, but tonight something was different. Maybe it was the beautiful sky. Maybe it was the fact that she finally felt safe. There are trees, she said softly. Very tall trees. Taller than any building on Earth. They touch the clouds. When the wind blows, they sing. Trees that sing? Their leaves make music. Different notes depending on the wind. My mother's palace is built in the biggest tree. You can hear the singing from every room. Yuna's eyes went wide. Your mother lives in a palace? Nari's ears flattened. She had said too much. Yes, she is important. Important how? Nari looked down at her hands. They were not as soft as they used to be. Working in the shop had given her calluses. She liked them. They made her feel useful. She's the most powerful person in the galaxy, Nari whispered. Yuna stared at her for a long moment. Then she laughed. You are making things up. I am not. Sure. And I am secretly a princess too. Yuna grinned and bumped her shoulder against Nari's. It does not matter anyway. You are my sister now. That is more important than any palace. Nari felt something warm spread through her chest. Sister. Yuna called her sister. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. Yes, Nari said quietly. I suppose it is. Down in the shop, Do-hyun knew the truth. He was not stupid. He had seen the way Nari spoke, formal and precise, even when using simple words. He had noticed the tiny implant in her shoulder when he first treated her wounds, technology far beyond anything humans could make. He had observed how she learned things instantly, as if her brain was built for speed. Nari was not a normal Philesian child. She was someone important. Someone powerful people had tried to kill. Someone nobody had come looking for in 6 months. That last part bothered him most. If Nari was really important, why had no one tried to find her? Either her family did not care, or they could not find her, or they were watching, waiting, testing. Do-hyun pushed the thought away. It did not matter. Nari was his daughter now, in every way that counted. He would protect her no matter who she was or who was looking for her. The neighborhood had accepted her slowly. At first, there were whispers. A few complaints. One man spat on the ground when Nari walked past. But Do-yoon stood firm, and eventually, people moved on. Old Mrs. Gong from the noodle shop was the first to show kindness. She started leaving packages of fish scraps at Do-yoon's door. For the skinny one, she said gruffly, she needs more meat on her bones. Park Jung-woo, the mechanic from 2 streets over, offered Do-yoon extra work when he learned about the second mouth to feed. He never asked questions. He just sent jobs and paid fairly. Even the children at Yuna's school eventually stopped staring. Nari could not go to school herself, but she waited outside every afternoon to walk home with Yuna. At first, the other kids pointed and whispered. Then they got used to her. Then they started saying hello. Humans gossip, Nari thought. But then they help anyway. One afternoon, 2 older boys cornered Nari behind the school. They were 12 or 13, big for their age, with mean eyes and meaner words. Freak, one said. Go back to your own planet. Cat monster, the other added. You do not belong here. Nari said nothing. She had faced worse than words. She stood very still and waited for them to get bored. Then Yuna appeared. She was much smaller than the boys. She did not care. She walked straight up to them with her fists clenched and her eyes burning. Leave my sister alone, she said. The boys laughed. What are you going to do about it? Yuna punched the first boy in the nose. There was a brief fight. Yuna was small but fierce. She got a black eye and a split lip. The boys got scratches and bruises and a very public embarrassment. A teacher broke it up before anyone was seriously hurt. That night, Do-hyun cleaned Yuna's wounds without scolding her. He was proud, even if he could not say it. You did the right thing, he said. But next time, try words first. Fighting should be the last choice, not the first. What if words do not work? Yuna asked. Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, just a little. Then you fight like hell, and I will always have your back. Nari watched this from the doorway. She did not understand. On Valkyrie Prime, fights between children were handled by adults. No one expected a child to defend another child. No one expected a child to risk pain for someone who was not blood family. But Yuna had done it without thinking. Like it was obvious. Like it was natural. Why? Nari asked later when they were alone. Why did you fight for me? You got hurt. Yuna looked at her like she was stupid. Because you are my sister. Sisters protect each other. That is what family does. Nari felt tears prick at her eyes. She blinked them back. I never had a sister before. Well, you do now. Yuna grabbed her hand. And I am not going anywhere. So you better get used to it. Aboard the moonless dawn, Seo watched the footage of the fight 17 times. She watched the small, human girl march into danger without hesitation. She watched her take a blow meant for Nari. She watched her refuse to back down even when she was bleeding. She is 9 years old, Seo said quietly. Yes, yes. Matriarch, her intelligence chief replied. 9 years old. And she fought 2 larger opponents to protect a stranger. Nari is not a stranger to her matriarch. The human girl considers her family. They share no blood, no contract, no obligation. Humans appear to define family differently than we do. Seowa leaned back in her throne. On the screen, Do-hyun was hugging both girls, careful not to press on Yuna's injuries. He looked exhausted, happy, proud. I want to know everything about this human, Seowa said. Not just his actions, his history, his beliefs, his character. I want to understand him. We already have extensive files, then get more. The intelligence chief bowed and left. Seloa continued watching. The observation would continue. The test was not over yet, but somewhere deep in her heart, in a place she rarely acknowledged, she was beginning to hope. Hope that this human was as good as he seemed. Hope that her daughter had found something precious. Hope that maybe, just maybe, humanity was not as primitive as she had always believed. They came on a Tuesday. Do-hyun was alone in the shop. The girls were at school. Yuna had morning classes, and Nari walked with her before spending the day at the library, reading every book she could find. It was their normal routine. A safe routine. Nothing about this Tuesday felt normal. Do-hyun noticed the feeling first. A wrongness in the air. The street outside was too quiet. No cars, no people walking, no sounds from the noodle shop next door. Then the door opened. 3 figures walked in. They wore dark tactical gear, the kind soldiers used. Helmets covered their faces. But their movements were wrong. Too smooth. Too fast. Not human. When the lead figure removed his helmet, Do-hyun saw angular features. Fur the color of dried blood. Eyes with slit pupils that held no warmth. Philesian, but not like Nari. These were predators. Killers. The child, the leader said. His comment was sharp and cold. Where is she? Do-hyun's heart slammed against his ribs. His hands were on the counter, close to the plasma cutter he used for heavy work. What child? I do not know what you are talking about. The Philesian moved faster than Do-hyun could see. One moment he was by the door. The next, his clawed hand was around Do-hyun's throat, lifting him off the ground and slamming him against the wall. Pain exploded through Do-hyun's back. He could not breathe. The Philesian's grip was like iron. Do not lie to us, the creature hissed. We know she is here. The heir, the abomination. We have been hunting her for 11 months. Tell us where she is, and your death will be quick. Do-hyun thought of Nari, her golden eyes, her shy smile, the way she laughed when she figured out how something worked, the way she called him Appa now, quiet and careful, like she was still learning the word. I do not know what you are talking about, he said again. The Philesian threw him across the room. What followed was the worst 20 minutes of Do-hyun's life. They beat him methodically, professionally. They knew exactly how to cause pain without killing. They broke 2 of his ribs with precise strikes. They fractured his eye socket with a single blow. They burned his arm with a plasma torch, asking the same questions over and over. Where is she? Where is the child? Tell us, and the pain stops. Do-hyun did not tell them anything. He thought about giving up. The pain was beyond anything he had experienced. Every breath was agony. Every heartbeat pumped fire through his veins. It would be so easy to just say the words, to make it stop. But then he thought about Nari finding his body, about her knowing that he had betrayed her, about her face when she realized the monsters had found her because of him. He would die before he let that happen. Finally, after what felt like hours, the lead Philesian received some kind of communication. His ear twitched, and he stepped back from Do-hyun's broken body. We must go, he told the others. The main target has been located elsewhere. What about him? The leader looked down at Do-hyun with something like disgust. He knows nothing. Or he's too stupid to talk. Either way, he is irrelevant. Leave him. They walked out. Just like that. Like Do-hyun was trash they had decided was not worth taking. Do-hyun lay on the floor of his shop, surrounded by blood and broken equipment. He could not move. Everything hurt. His vision was blurry. He tasted copper. But he was alive. And Nari was safe. He dragged himself across the floor. It took forever. Every movement sent waves of pain through his body. But he reached his phone on the counter, and managed to dial with trembling fingers. Park Jung-woo answered on the second ring. Do-hyun? What? Get the girls from school. Do-hyun's voice was barely a whisper. Do not bring them home. Take them to your place. Keep them safe. What happened? Are you... Just do it, please. The phone slipped from his bloody fingers. He tried to stay conscious. He failed. When he woke up, he was not in his shop anymore. He was lying on something soft. A bed, but not his bed. The ceiling above him was not made of concrete or plaster. It was made of something that looked like coral, glowing with soft blue light. There were people around him. Philesians in medical uniforms, working on his injuries with tools he did not recognize. The pain was fading, replaced by a warm numbness that spread through his body. He is awake, someone said. A female Philesian stepped forward. She was tall, with copper-colored fur and a professional bearing. Kang Do-hyun. Can you hear me? Where? Where am I? The girls. Safe. Both of them are safe. They are on this ship. Ship. He was on a ship. That explained the strange ceiling. We are not your enemy, the female continued. We serve the High Matriarch. I do not know what that means. You will. She gestured, and suddenly the air in front of Do-hyun filled with light. A holographic display showing an image he recognized, Nari, but older somehow. More regal. Wearing ceremonial robes and standing beside a throne. The image shifted, and Do-hyun found himself looking at a face he had never seen before. She was beautiful, terrifyingly beautiful. Her fur was black as space, and her eyes were gold, just like Nari's. She wore a crown of living crystal on her head. Power radiated from her like heat from a fire. I am Seowo, the recording said. High Matriarch of the Philesian Concordat. The child you call Nari is my daughter, heir apparent to 17 star systems. Don stared. His broken mind tried to process the words and failed. For 11 months, I have watched you. The matriarch's voice was calm, measured. I have seen everything. Every meal you gave her. Every lesson you taught her. Every night you stayed awake, making sure she was safe. The recording continued. You saved her life with no expectation of reward. You sacrificed your comfort, your finances, your safety. Today, you endured torture rather than betray her location. Seowa's image seemed to look directly at him. I have judged 1,000 diplomats and warriors in my reign. None have shown more honor than you. The copper-furred Philesian spoke again. The extremists who attacked you are part of a faction that has been hunting the air for over a year. They want to end the royal bloodline. We have been tracking them, but they found you before we could intervene. It is Nari. Do-hyun tried to sit up. Pain flared. Hands pushed him gently back down. She is unharmed. They received false intelligence about her location. By the time they realized their mistake, we had already secured her and your daughter. I want to see them. Soon. First, you need to heal. The Philesian paused. The matriarch has a proposal for you. A proposal? The extremists are defeated, but not destroyed. Nari will never be completely safe until she claims her throne, many years from now. She will need protectors she can trust absolutely. People who care for her, not her title. The hologram of Seowa flickered back to life. I offer your family a place on Velthary Prime, a home. Resources to continue your work. In exchange, you continue what you have already begun. You help raise my daughter. Not as servants. As family. Do-hyun closed his eyes. His body screamed at him. His mind was spinning. Everything he thought he knew had been turned upside down. But one thought cut through the chaos, clear and bright. Nari needed him. Yuna needed him. And now, apparently, The most powerful ruler in 17 systems was asking him for help. One condition, he said. The copper-furred Philesian raised an eyebrow. I want a workshop. A real one. With tools I could never afford on Earth. Do-hyun opened his eyes. Your people have technology I have never seen. I want to learn it. I want to understand how it works. I want to fix things. There was a long pause. Then, from the hologram, Silwell laughed. It was a strange sound. Surprised and warm and almost human. Done, she said. Rest now, Kang Do-hyun. When you wake, your daughters will be waiting for you. Daughters, plural. Do-hyun smiled through his pain. Yes, that was right. He had 2 daughters now, and he would do anything to keep them safe. Anything at all. The moonless dawn was bigger than any building Do-hyun had ever seen. It was not just a ship. It was a city that flew through space. Corridors stretched for kilometers, made of living coral that glowed with soft bioluminescent light. Gardens grew on every level, filled with plants from a dozen different worlds. Thousands of Philesians lived and worked here, serving the matriarch and her house. And now, Do-hyun walked through these halls like he belonged. His injuries had healed completely. Philesian medicine was centuries ahead of anything on Earth. The doctors had fixed his broken ribs, repaired his fractured eye socket, and erased the burns from his skin. He felt better than he had in years. Stronger. Younger, almost. Yuna walked beside him, holding his hand tightly. Her eyes were huge as she looked at everything around her. The glowing walls. The strange plants. The Philesians in their flowing robes, who bowed their heads slightly as Do-hyun passed. Appa, she whispered. Why are they bowing to us? I think, Do-hyun said slowly, it is because of Nari. Because she is a princess? Something like that. They reached a large door at the end of a long corridor. It was made of crystal that shifted colors as they approached. 2 guards stood on either side, tall Philesians in armor that looked like liquid silver. The guards stepped aside without a word. The door opened. Inside was the most beautiful room Do-hyun had ever seen. The walls were curved, made of the same living coral as the rest of the ship. But here they formed patterns. Swirling shapes that seemed to move when you were not looking directly at them. The ceiling was transparent, showing the stars outside. Millions of stars, bright and clear, stretching into forever. At the far end of the room, 2 figures waited. One was tall and terrible and beautiful. Silwa, High Matriarch, in robes of silver and black. Her crown of living crystal caught the starlight and scattered it into rainbows. The other was small and silver-haired and already running toward them. Appa! Nari hit Do-hyun like a small missile. She wrapped her arms around him and buried her face in his chest. He could feel her shaking. I was so scared, she whispered. I saw the footage. I saw what they did to you. I thought you were going to die. Do-hyun held her tightly. I am hard to kill. You know that. You did not tell them where I was. They hurt you so badly, and you did not tell them. Of course not. He pulled back slightly, looking into her golden eyes. You are my daughter. I would never betray you. Nari's ears flattened. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I am not really your daughter. Not by blood. Not by... Stop. Do-hyun's voice was firm but gentle. You are my daughter. Blood does not matter. Papers do not matter. Family is the people you choose and the people who choose you. I chose you the night I found you in that alley. Nothing will ever change that. Nari stared at him for a long moment. Then she hugged him again, harder than before. Yuna joined the hug from the side. Group hug, she announced. I want to be part of the family moment too. They stood like that for a while. 3 people from 2 different worlds. holding each other in the light of a billion stars. Then a voice spoke, low and musical and filled with emotion Do-yoon had not expected. "This," Seol said, "is why I watched for so long." They pulled apart. Do-yoon turned to face the matriarch. Up close, she was even more overwhelming. Power seemed to flow off her like electricity. Looking at her was like looking at a thunderstorm given form, but her eyes were soft and wet. "You see," she continued, "I needed to understand something. When the extremists first attacked my daughter, my advisors gave me many options. Military responses, political solutions, diplomatic moves." She paused. "Some suggested we should strike first against Earth." Do-yoon felt cold. "What?" "Humans are dangerous," they said. "Unpredictable, violent. Better to destroy them before they become a threat." Seol shook her head slowly. "I did not agree, but I had no proof they were wrong. My only experience with humans was through reports and data. I have never seen one up close." She moved closer, her robes whispering against the floor. "Then my daughter crashed on your planet, and I watched a human mechanic carry her out of the rain. Feed her, heal her, protect her, love her." Seol was stopped in front of Do-yoon. She was taller than him by half a head, but somehow that did not matter. "I watched you give your food to a child who was not yours. I watched you work until exhaustion so she could have medicine. I watched you suffer torture without breaking." Her voice cracked slightly. "And I knew that my advisors were wrong." "Wrong about what?" Do-yoon asked. "About humanity. About what your species truly is." Seol reached out and placed her clawed hand on his shoulder. "You are not primitive. You are not just violent animals fighting over resources. You are something far more valuable. You are a people who fix broken things, who take in strays, who choose to love creatures you have no obligation to love." She turned to look at Nari and Yuna, standing together with their arms around each other. "You gave my daughter something I could not," Seol said quietly. "A normal life. A family that wanted her for herself, not her title. Safety born of love, not guards and walls." She looked back at Do-yoon. "I can never repay you for that." "You do not need to repay me," Do-yoon said. "I did what any parent would do." "No." Seol's voice was firm. "That is exactly my point. Any human parent, perhaps. But among my people, such actions are rare. We are raised to value blood above all, to calculate benefit and cost in every relationship. You taught me that there is another way, a better way." She stepped back and gestured around the room. "I offer you a home on Veltri Prime, a workshop beyond anything you could imagine, the resources of 17 star systems at your disposal. In return, I ask only that you continue to be who you are, a father, a teacher, a protector." Do-yoon looked at his daughters. Yuna was bouncing with excitement. Nari was smiling through her tears. "What do you think?" he asked them. "Want to move to an alien planet?" "Yes," Yuna shouted. "Can I learn to fly a spaceship? Can I meet more aliens?" "Can I?" Nari laughed. A real laugh, bright and free. "You will love Veltri Prime. The trees are so tall. And the music, you can hear music from everywhere." Do-yoon turned back to Seol. "I have one more question. Ask. Will I be able to visit Earth sometimes? I have friends there, a shop, a life I built. You may go wherever you wish. You are not a prisoner or a servant. You are family." Seol smiled. It transformed her face, making her look less like a thunderstorm and more like a mother. "My daughter's family is my family, always." Do-yoon extended his hand. "Then we have a deal." Seol looked at his hand. Then, carefully, she took it in her clawed grip. "Among my people," she said, We seal agreements with a touch of foreheads. But I've learned that humans shake hands. So we will do both. They shook hands. Then, surprising him completely, Seolwi leaned forward and touched her forehead to his. Just briefly. A gesture of respect and acceptance and something deeper. When she pulled back, her eyes were warm. Welcome to the family, Kang Do-yun. 3 years later, the workshop on Velthary Prime was famous across 17 star systems. They called him the Human Tinkerer, the man who could fix anything. Philesian nobles brought him machines that their own engineers could not repair. Scientists came to study his methods, trying to understand how a human from a primitive planet could see solutions they had missed. Do-yun did not care about fame. He cared about his work, about the satisfaction of taking something broken and making it whole again. And he cared about his family. Yuna was 12 now, studying at a Philesian academy where she was the only human student. She complained about the homework and bragged about her alien friends and was learning to pilot small spacecraft in her spare time. Nari was growing into the heir she was meant to be. She attended royal functions and studied politics and learned the responsibilities of leadership. But every evening she came to Do-yun's workshop. She put on an old apron, picked up a wrench, and worked beside him until dinner. Some habits, she said, were too important to break. Seolwa visited often. At first, these visits were formal, official inspections of her daughter's progress. But over time, they became something else. Conversations, shared meals, quiet moments watching the sunset through the singing trees. She never admitted it out loud, but Do-yun knew she was lonely. Being high matriarch meant being separate from everyone, having no one who saw her as anything but a ruler. With Do-yun, she could just be Seolwa, a mother, a widow, a person who sometimes felt lost in a galaxy that expected her to have all the answers. You know, she told him once, you changed everything. They were sitting on the balcony of his workshop, watching Nari and Yuna chase each other through the gardens below. Yuna was losing. Philesians were fast. I just fixed some machines, Do-yun said. You fix much more than machines. Seolwa's golden eyes reflected the sunset. You fixed my faith in the universe. Before I found Nari with you, I was afraid. Afraid of humans. Afraid of the future. Afraid that the galaxy was nothing but darkness and violence. She turned to look at him. You showed me that I was wrong. That there is kindness even in the darkest places. That broken things can be healed. She paused. You gave me hope, Kang Do-yun. That is worth more than all the star systems I rule. Do-yun did not know what to say. So he did what he always did when words failed him. He offered her a cup of tea. Seolwa laughed, and the sound was beautiful. Far below, in the garden,